Good evening and welcome back in to Astros Recap here on my YouTube channel. It is Sunday night, June 23rd, currently 10:25 p.m. And the Astros have indeed wrapped up another week in the regular season. Probably their worst week they've had all year. Pretty miserable week as they lost 6 of 7. So they went 1-6. I think last week I was talking to you, I said something like hopeful for a 5-2. I mean, now that they went 1-6, I would have taken 4-3, 3-4, 2-5. But yeah, they went 1-6. So not expecting that. I was hoping that they could, maybe at the very least split with the Yankees. We knew that coming up, that they were going to be a tough matchup, getting healthy, and going to be a completely different team than the one we faced back in April. But the Reds weren't a team that we were necessarily concerned about. I even said that I was excited about the series just because we hadn't played them so long, playing in a National League ballpark. I thought that'd be a favorable series. We could do some damage there, but obviously that was not the case. So they got swept by the Reds, and then they lost 3 of 4. They finally won a game today, so sort of in the week on a high note, but you can't just erase the 5-6 games that were before that. In fact, they had lost the series finale the previous week to the Blue Jays, so they were actually in the midst of a 7-game losing streak altogether, which was their worst since 2015. So you're looking at 4 years ago, right? Yeah. So anyway, not a lot of good things to talk about. I'll still do it because that's what I'm here for. So anyway, like I said, they got swept by the Reds. I'm not going to necessarily go through every game here. I try not to. I don't want to just bore you to death by going game by game by game. I try to give you more of a recap of just how the week's gone, where players stand at this point in time. They lost each of those games by the Reds by 1 run, so each one was real close. But the offense, after getting shut out, on Sunday to Toronto, 12-0, coming on Monday, didn't get off to a very good start. Their pitcher, Luis Castillo, is actually really good. He's 7-1. Well, after winning that, he was 7-1 with a 2.26 ERA. Miley got the loss. We really couldn't get much of anything going. I mean, we scored 2 runs in the 7th. Brantley is finally, he was in a little bit of a slump that I mentioned. He's definitely broke back out, and he's, mashing the ball. So that was just a short series. He was like at 0 for 12, 0 for 13, finally got a hit, and he was like 0 for 10, something along the lines of that when we played Toronto. But he broke out. That was a bright spot and a pretty bad series for the Astros there. I think he hit an RBI double after they scored an error, but the Reds scored 3 in the 5th. Miley, who struggled in this start. I mean, you look up, he only gave up 3 runs. There was a rain delay. In fact, they dealt with 4 straight games this week with rain delays. So all 3 games with the Reds, there was a delay. And then the first game against New York, there was also a delay. So, by the way, if you hear noise in the background, that's actually my fan. So this actually probably occurred on a previous podcast, like the second one I ever posted, or you heard the same sort of thing. So if you hear that in the background, just FYI, it is the fan in my room. It gets kind of hot. So, but anyway, so they lose that 3-2, and then they lose the next 2 games again by 1 run, 4-3, and I lost it. Where is it at? All right, 4-3. God, I'm all over the place here. I went back way too far. So they lost 3-2, 4-3, and then 3-2 again. Wednesday game was the tough one because they, gave up. Garrett Cole gave up an early home run to, I believe, Yasiel Puig. Brantley hit a 2-run home run like in the 7th inning to give us a lead, and things were set up. I mean, you had Harris, you had Presley, you had Osuna, all well rested. And it got down to Osuna. He allowed a leadoff double and then he struck out back-to-back hitters. Looked like, we were going to be able to salvage the game, and then it was, RBI single. The throw to try to get the runner out at home was a bad one by Michael Brantley in left field. Garrett Stubbs flailed at the ball. It hit off his glove. He lost his glove and the ball, which ended up being huge because that was able to advance the runner to second, who then scored on a single by the next hitter. So, yeah, it was just a bad series altogether. The first sweep that the Astros have suffered in 37 series or something like that, dating back to last year. So, yeah, it was pretty bad to, walk into New York losing 3 straight. And, the whole thing I've been talking about for the last few weeks is the whole, winning twice as many as you won, or winning twice as many as you've lost when it comes to record. That's the thing I look at when it comes down to everything and how games play out. At the end of the day, I'm looking at your record. That's the most important thing. So, I would suspect most people do that, but definitely I'm looking at record, and that's what really is the biggest thing. So, losing 3 straight basically screwed the whole doubling up your loss column with wins that I was looking at. And, of course, it got worse losing, 3 or 4 to New York. But losing all those one-run games, that's a stat. That's a very misleading stat, but you need to be pretty good. Having a closer that can shut down games. Osuna has been really shaky lately. He's blown 3 of his last 9 saves after converting his first, what was it like? So if he's blown 3 of his last 9, that means he's converted 6. I believe he's at 17 saves and 20 opportunities. So he was, 11 for 11 if you do the math there before blowing his first. He also got in the game today, which I'll get to in a minute. But Osuna's been kind of just so lately. We'll see. He's the guy you're going to ride or die with in the 9th inning, so we have to live with it. I've been a big pro Roberto Osuna fan from a baseball standpoint because I think he's a legitimate, proven closer. He doesn't walk a lot of hitters. He keeps the ball in the ballpark. So, I'm not going to be worried next time he's in the game. Maybe a little bit because he has not been, locked down as solid as we would have hoped, especially of late. But I still expect him to get the saves every time out there. So we know what I like in the back end of the bullpen. It's Harris, it's Presley, it's Osuna. So, yeah. But anyway, so, Cincinnati had a little bit going for them. They're not a terrible team. I remember looking at their record last week, and they were about 6 games under 500, which was actually the worst in the division, but that was a pretty competitive division. They're not a terrible team, so, it's a team we should beat, no doubt, but, on the road in Cincinnati, it didn't roll our way. It's hard to explain, but teams go through this. They do. The best of teams at some point during the season. And one thing that I was also thinking about earlier this week is that, we've been dealing with injuries, and I never like to use that as an excuse or reason, but us as Astros fans were pretty spoiled because we had won all these games without, Altuve, Correa, Springer, Diaz. We were still winning. It wasn't a big deal. It just seemed like next man up, and they were getting the job done. So we were a little spoiled. This was going to be bound to happen. Even if they had all players, every team's going to go through a stretch. Hopefully that was the end of it. Hopefully the win today. We'll go into an off day tomorrow and then play some easier teams that we really should beat. But hopefully that was the end of it. Losing 7 in a row is tough. Baseball's a game that humbles you very quickly. When you're winning, things are great, and you just kind of roll through, and it's like this is just easy business as usual, and then you lose a few games, and then you feel completely different. So that's how it works. But I don't want to get over there was no reason to panic or be concerned or anything like that. It was just one of those stretches. So there's a little pep talk in between series. Friday was pretty bad. Thursday, I should say. So they lost that game 10-6. There was a rain delay after 3. So Valdez pitched and started this game for us. He got through 3 innings like it was a breeze. He was mowing down hitters. He looked very good. Then the 4th, he completely blew up. Gave up 6 runs. There was a big home run to Gary Sanchez, an even bigger home run to Gleyber Torres. There was a rain delay sort of mixed in after giving up 6 runs. So at that point, it was just you're playing catch-up, didn't expect to win. They did put up 6 runs. Bregman hit a home run. Marisnik had 2 home runs. A few singles here and there, so they were competitive, but after being down 6-0, they lost 10-6, so it's not like the bullpen came in and didn't provide a whole lot of relief. I think Devo gave up a run. If I look here, Encarnacion, LeMahieu, they all had home runs as well. But Valdez, of course, got the loss, going only 3 1/3. Then they needed to find a way to, how they're going to deal with the bullpen here. Davinsky came in, gave an earned run. Josh James, who's a guy that I like Josh James. I think he can find himself in a lot more high leverage situations, especially more so than Rondon. But he gave up 2. Rondon actually had a scoreless inning. And then Armenteros gave up 2 runs. Rogelio Armenteros, I think. Tried to pronounce his name, I think last week or the week before. But I think it's Rogelio. So yeah, I mean, Davinsky's not a guy that's going to pitch in a lot of close games. Armenteros the same way. We know how I feel about Rondon, and he's going to find himself in close games as long as A.J. Hinch is managing ball games. And Josh James, a guy who I'd actually like to see get more work when it comes to high leverage situations, if you needed to use him in the 6th or 7th, because A.J. doesn't like to use his guys more than 2 days in a row. But so yeah, I mean, they were never going to win that game. Never felt like they had a chance. Just trying to keep things close, keep things competitive. So if you look at that, I guess that's a glass half full, silver lining mentality. I don't look at moral victories, especially when you're in the midst of losing your 5th consecutive game. But that's what I'll say there. Saturday rolled around. This was a very winnable game for the team. So they were down 2-0 early in the game. I think Torres, again, got to him. Was it Torres? I got to look at this. I'm actually skipping a game. So Friday's the game I'm supposed to talk about here. These 4-game series kind of mess me up because there's a lot more. But they lose on Friday 4-1. That was a very frustrating game because Gary Sanchez hit a home run to give him a 2-0 lead. We scored a run. Let's see. Okay, now I lost it. We scored a run on I hate scrolling through this, but it was a Jake Marisnik double that scored Tyler White. And it was a close game, so I felt like we had a chance. But bringing in Rondon was a bad decision. I knew it when he brought him in, and sure enough, it paid dividends. As I think it was, Gleyber Torres hit a 2-run home run to make it 4-1. Yankees back in the bullpen's good. You look at Ottavino and Britton and Chapman, they have a pretty tough back end. So giving up those 2 runs, was it the 7th inning? I'm not exactly sure, but it's a recurring theme for me. Every single time in a big situation for Rondon, it's just here we go again. Every single time, it's just aggravating to me how much he gets used. It's not like he's being used a ton, but the times he does get used, it never ends well, never. And then Davinsky came in to settle the 8th, so yeah, Rondon did get the 7th there. Peacock got the loss. Peacock was outstanding. Going 6 innings, they finally stretched him out. He threw, let's see how many pitches he threw here. He threw 102, so he finally got full workload. Feel like he was always in the 80s, low 90s, and then AJ would go to the bullpen. But he was great. I mean, he gave up 2 earned runs, but struck out 11. Didn't walk a hitter. Tough luck loser in that game for him. So there's that. Of course, Rondon, making the. I'm not saying they necessarily win the game, but he definitely, I feel like, put it out of reach, giving up his 2 runs. So losing Friday, Saturday. This was a game I felt like they could have won. And I can put down the phone now because I have a pretty vivid, I feel like, memory of the last 2 games here. So they were down early 2-0. They tied it on a Josh Reddick 2-run home run. Then they quickly relinquished the lead, giving up 2 more runs. And then Yordan Alvarez hit a huge 3-run home run that gave him the lead in the 7th inning. And Presley was up and ready to go. So, I mean, nobody you feel more comfortable with than Presley, basically, in that bullpen. But he had a bad day. It's kind of weird. Him in the 7th. I mean, I don't disagree with the situation, but you're looking at getting 9 outs with probably the combination of Presley and Osuna. And the Astros were extremely desperate at this point to get a win. So Presley comes in, gives up a home run right off the bat. It seemed like Gleyber Torres was just hitting home runs left and right. Actually, I think it was Austin. Is it Austin? Andrew Romine? See, now I'm curious, so I'm going to pick back up the phone and actually look. It was, let's see here. Austin Romine hit a home run. Not a guy you'd expect to, but he did. Presley put more people on base, and then Judge came through with a 2-run single. So he gave up 3 runs. He had given up 3 runs the entire year going into that game. So that was tough. And then we weren't able to come back from that. Britton actually got the save. We did load the bases, and Tyler White flew out to end that game. But that was definitely a winnable game, having the lead there in the 7th. But the Yankees, they're extremely hot right now. I know they lost today. We finally beat them, but they're playing very good, and they're finally healthy. They got Judge back on Friday, and they had Stanton and Gregorius is back, and they're pretty much at full strength. I mean, I think the only guy in the bullpen missing is Dellin Betances. And I don't even know what he's dealing with, but I just feel like I haven't seen or heard from him all year. So, and like I said, their bullpen's already good without him. I mean, you got Chapman closing games, but like I said, with Zach Britton's there, Adam Ottavino. There's a few others that I'm actually not bringing up here. Let's see if I can. I'm not necessarily sure, but that's a pretty good 7, 8, 9 combination. And when they have Betances back, if he comes back, that's even worse. That's tough. So anyway, those were all the losses. So tough times. They finally win today. Phone went off there, so I don't know what that was, but they got off to a good start. Altuve hit a home run today. He had 3 hits on Friday, so him coming back, he was kind of slow. He came back, I believe, on Wednesday, and he was hitless. Thursday didn't do much. Friday he finally had a few hits. Saturday he did okay. Today he had a home run, a double. Had some bad at-bats. Altuve's working his way back. Average was all the way down in the 230s, but I think that he's going to start getting it going here. He's too good, too talented, and we know who Altuve is. So, but today, he led off the game with a home run. Alvarez again hit a home run, 2-run home run. He's got like 7 now in 12 games. The dude's just insane. Every time he gets in the box, you feel like he's going to do something. So he's going to be huge for us. Hopefully he continues what he's been doing. Tyler White actually had a big hit. He had a grand slam today, so that was kind of the big hit. Yuli Gurriel had a home run after that as well, so there was back-to-back. I don't know if it was Alvarez. Sounds right. Alvarez, Gurriel went back-to-back. So they were hitting the ball out of the ballpark, scoring runs. They won 9-4, so Verlander gave up his usual at least one home run, but this was actually a 3-run home run. Usually he gives up solo shots, a few of them per game. But he gave up, a 3-run shot, I believe, to DJ LeMahieu. And then there was another run mixed in there. LeMahieu had a triple scored. That was when Devo was in the game. Verlander got the win. He got plenty of run support, so there would be no excuse if he actually lost. Finally getting his 10th win. ERA at 2.67. So 10-3 for him. I talked about Peacock, how good he was. Osuna actually got in the game today just to get sort of the bad taste, getting some work. With the day off tomorrow, it made complete sense. So AJ at least see eye to eye in an aspect there. But it wasn't necessarily a shutdown inning. Yankees worked a lot of full counts. He ended up throwing 25, 26 pitches to finally get out of it, but at least it was scoreless, and good to get him in some action there. So the day off, just a relief to finally get back into the win column. They are now 49-30. So unless they win 11 more and go on a 12-game winning streak, they'll have their 16-30, twice as many wins as losses, as I talked about pretty often. But the division was never in doubt. It has shrunk to 6.5 games. The Rangers continue to play pretty good baseball. Oakland also is, Texas is 6 games over 500. Oakland is 3, but that's really the only competition, if you can call it competition. So hopefully the Astros, with the off day, back home already, probably sleeping or getting close to it, and then enjoy the off day tomorrow and get back to it on Tuesday. They played 79 games, so I kind of thought about doing maybe a first half recap Wednesday night. I go to the game that day, so it would be pretty late, but haven't necessarily decided. If you subscribe to my channel, you'll get an update right when that video comes out, if indeed I have the time to do so. So I would highly suggest you do that there. I'd love to hear comments. I'm already up at 22 minutes here, so I've gone kind of long. I usually go through a few of the games, and then I like to sort of give you some stats or where players necessarily are. There were a few transactions, as Jack Mayfield was sent back down to bring up. God, I'm trying to remember here. This is tough when don't necessarily have the phone in front of me. Anyway, Mayfield's back in AAA. I believe when they brought up Altuve, Ramin Gudwan was sent back down, but he's already back up. So, Gudwan's here, and he actually pitched a scoreless inning on Saturday, although we were losing at the point, so it didn't mean a whole lot. But I guess it's good that he actually got in an inning without giving up a run, which seemed like impossible for him. But he was able to do it. He's not going to pitch in a whole lot of close games. They needed an extra arm after using all these guys in the bullpen, I believe, Thursday or Friday, so they had to bring somebody up, and I have no idea why it was him, but it was. So Gudwan got called up. Also, Max Stassi's back, so that was the other transaction. Stassi's back, and Garrett Stubbs is back in AAA. So that's what I know now when it comes to transactions. Still waiting. Springer should actually be back Tuesday when they play their next game. Be interesting to see the transaction there, because the odd guy out, you'd almost feel like it's Miles Straw, but I feel like he's been so good, it's kind of hard. So we'll see. It might even be a pitcher. I don't know necessarily. I think they brought up Gudwan for a position player. So if AJ feels comfortable, especially with the day off Monday, he might just send a reliever back. But McHugh is another guy coming up, so he'll have a lot of tough moves to make. But we're finally starting to get some people back. McHugh should be back around the same time. He might be a day or two later than Springer, but we'll see sort of the corresponding moves that end up happening with bringing those two players back. And once you have Springer and Altuve back in the lineup with Bregman, with Brantley, with Alvarez, the lineup's going to really start to look better They have to deal with Tyler White right now. Diaz and Correa are far in the future, so like after the All-Star break, so that's 2.5 weeks, something like that. So they're far down the line, but you can't, Tyler White, we would assume, even though he's actually had a few doubles, like I said, he had the Grand Slam, but he's still not, unless he goes on some crazy, which he's done, he has those miracle months, weeks. I don't see a spot for him on this roster, and he's out of, like I said earlier, previous podcasts, minor league assignments, so he'd have to be released, and I think that's what's going to happen when we get Correa and Diaz back, because right now he's our everyday first baseman as they move Gurriel to third, slide Bregman over short, and then Altuve's back at second. So he's our everyday first baseman as it stands. But when Correa gets a spot back at short and Diaz comes back, who's an infielder, I don't see a spot for him. So he'll be the odd man out. I'm going to stick with that for now. Even if he goes off, it's not going to last. We all know that. We know who Tyler White is. So I don't see why you would even trick yourself into keeping him on this team. So that's the way things stand from a player standpoint. Verlander, like I said, got his 10th win. Garrett Cole was a tough luck loser in Wednesday's game. Brad Peacock was outstanding. Valdez has had a tough start on Thursday. He pitched on Thursday, and then when did he pitch before that? He pitched the Saturday game, so he was good against Toronto. And then, he kind of blew up against the Yankees. He's not going anywhere. He's going to continue to get the starts for now. Miley's struggled his last two outings. He gave up 4 runs on Saturday there. Only three, but didn't get very far. Very odd week with the rain delays and just losing, period. But, there's 7 games to talk about. I kind of just jumped around. But, so Miley's a little shaky, and that's about it. So, Peacock, hopefully he'll build off the start. We'll still be waiting. I mean, McHugh, when he comes back, he'll be going into the bullpen, so it's not like he's going to jump right into the rotation. I'd be shocked. And there's nobody really that's struggling mightily right now, so we'll just have to wait and see. Next week, I would like to probably going to have a guest, one of my coworkers that's a tour guide that works with me at work, named Keegan Lassard, might be on my podcast next week. So I just want to bring in guests, get different points of view, things like that. But he is a tour guide at Minute Maid Park along with myself, so we'll see. He kind of flaked out on me today, so we'll see. But he's a big fan. Doesn't watch a lot of games. In fact, he worked guest services with the staff 4 years. He's recovering from Tommy John surgery, but he's got interesting viewpoints. So he's probably going to be my guest next week, so you'll probably hear from him. I'm coming up almost on 30 minutes, so this was an extended podcast. 7 games, try to talk about a lot of players. And I'll probably talk to you on Wednesday, just by myself. So to give you sort of, first half recap, if I have time. But subscribe, that way you'll know for sure. Love to hear comments, all that good stuff. But I'll wrap things up there, and I'll talk to you next week, and we'll see you then.